In a world filled with keyboards and screens, cursive handwriting feels like a relic. But what if that is exactly why it matters? Today I'm inviting you to explore how to start writing cursive, and why it might be the analog ritual you didn't know you needed. Hello friends, I make videos about analog lifestyle, slow living, with stationary items mixed in. These days, cursive is no longer taught in schools. You'd be lucky to find a school that does actually teach cursive handwriting. If anything, it's printing or typing into your screen. The art of writing by hand is slowly being lost. I first learned cursive as a child. It felt like a secret language, fluid, mysterious, and very expressive. And then I stopped using it. Years later, I returned to it not out of necessity, but longing for slowness, for texture, for presence. Cursive handwriting demands attention. It slows down the mind. Each loop and line brings me into the moment. There are studies that show handwriting activates different parts of the brain, helping with memory retention, learning, and even emotional regulation. But more than anything, it just feels good. To get started, you don't need anything fancy. A writing instrument, a pencil or pen that writes smoothly, a notebook that preferably lays flat. Those two things will take you far. But if you are curious, here are a few of my favorites. Fountain pens, because of the tactile sensation that it brings, and smooth paper like Tomoe, Midori, or Rhodia. And sometimes the guide sheet tucked underneath the page when I'm using blank pages. Just like anything, better tools make the experience more joyful, but they're not required. Start where you are. Cursive is built on just a few strokes. Think of them as building blocks, curves, loops, and connectors. Now I find it helps when you have lined or dotted pages when you first start out. You can also use a blank page with a guide underneath it to provide that spacing that's helpful. Helpful in the sense that cursive is a flow, it's a dance, and it can really help when you've got some structure in terms of space and spacing around it. So I'm going to walk you through some of the foundations in terms of cursive. This is how I learned it. And of course there are different systems out there, and I encourage you to check out what might work for you. And I'm out of ink on that one. I had meant to refill that, so I will grab another pen. So we'll start with an undercurve. And the idea here is to not hold your pen too tightly, not hold it too loosely. You'll find it, but just letting the pen kind of flow across the page here. So the undercurve forms the base of letters like C, A, and D. You can see how I'm starting under. It's kind of like a slanted S. And that forms the opportunity to let the letter develop as it goes. The overcurve shows up in letters like N, M, and H. Now I start off with an undercurve accidentally there, and you can see that looks like a weird N. And when you're connecting these letters together, you will have a flow from one letter to the other, but when you're practicing the individuals, you do want to start it with the over. So the overs are kind of upside down U's. Loops are for letters like I, G, and H. I, G, H, Y. So there's a little bit of a flourish in there, right? You're introducing the loop and the connection. So between the undercurve, overcurve, and loops, you are forming a dance. The alphabet becomes a dance, one letter flowing into the next. Now, one of my least favorite letters to do with cursive are E's, only because I'm not very good at it. And I'll show you why. So here's an I, and here's an E. they look pretty similar in how I write. And so I'm spending quite a bit of time differentiating my I's and E's. And if I go too quick, you'll notice that I make my E lose its loop and it starts looking like an I at some point. So I do spend quite a bit of time just practicing and letting it flow from one letter to another. And that's the beauty of cursive handwriting, is it's a flow. You start practicing with each of these letter families and then building up the entire alphabet and flowing from one to the other. And pretty soon, form the entire alphabet. This is all lowercase, and generally lowercase is more or less the same between the different styles of cursive writing. The uppercase has a whole different flourish. You can find uppercase A's like this, uppercase A's like this, where it's just a larger version, B's and B's, C's and C's, show you what I use for my alphabet here. And I screwed this one up. Q. Sorry. Oh, that's terrible. Let's try that again. Q. Q. It's okay to make mistakes, by the way. I just forgot where I was in the alphabet. That was hilarious. And I just did it again. I started doing K. P, Q, R. S, T, U, B, W, X. There's nothing fancy about my X's. I keep it pretty simple. And then Z. Or Z. So that's my full uppercase and lowercase there. And this is something that I've just personalized over time. This is the letters and how I like to make it look. And what I really like about this is that it flows when you're writing cursive. And as I mentioned a few times, that connection that you're looking for. So here's an example. You'll notice that my E is not as well formed and starts looking like an I. Sometimes I'll go back and just tweak my letters a little bit like that. But the act of writing like that forces me to pay attention as I'm writing, because I want it to look good, obviously, and legible. But I really enjoy how that pen just flows across the page. I'm really connecting with what I'm writing. It's sinking in. Now, this is a fountain pen on some really nice paper. Good paper. This is Midori paper. Here's a ballpoint. And again, this is all the same. You'll notice that I'm changing up my uppercase. Sometimes I do that, whatever I feel like. But that's the point, is that it's really just about what works for you, finding your own style, personalizing all of this. The key about cursive handwriting and getting good at it is to just practice. Consistency, making a ritual out of it, using every opportunity you write to try writing with cursive. I like writing little notes to myself like this in cursive. It makes it stick. Very rarely do I drift away from this. Here's an example of my commonplace notebooks. I find, especially when I write in my commonplace notebooks with cursive, it helps me retain that nugget that much more. It sinks in. The experience of writing that entire paragraph, for example. Your cursive doesn't have to look like mine or anyone else's. It doesn't have to look beautiful, extravagant, or elegant. That's the beauty of it. In fact, I don't think my cursive is very beautiful to look at all, but it's subjective. I like looking at my handwriting, and sure, when I compare it to some of the brilliant calligraphers out there, mine pales in comparison, but this isn't about comparison. It's more about the experience of writing. Over time, your cursive will result in its own rhythm emerging. Perhaps a letter slants a little bit more. Maybe a loop stretches out just a tad more. It's not about perfection. It's about personality, your personality and how you express it. I use cursive for just about everything that I write, and occasionally I will drift into printing from time to time. But for the most part, and it's cursive especially when I want to think clearly, becomes a ritual, a way of making the invisible, your thoughts, more visible. Learning and writing in cursive is a quiet act of resistance. It's a way to reclaim your attention, your time, your personality. So pick up a pen, let your hand dance across that page, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself slowing down, finding some intention, finding yourself in the present moment, and in the process. Thanks very much for joining me at Stationery at 4. Let me know in the comment section below if there are techniques or styles that you gravitate towards with your cursive writing. And if you like this video, don't forget to click on the like, subscribe buttons below, as well as maybe consider buying me a coffee in the description below. Until next time, may your pen flow freely and your moments feel slow.